listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin. To master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Once you walked in a forest of splendor in which everything you did and everything you thought was aligned. It is possible at this time to begin to return to the old knowledge. Intuitive healer and manifestor Julia Griffin is here to talk about this unique time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you were born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour, and let us help you experience higher vibrations, insights, and more of your inner self. Today's guest, I'm really excited about this, is Mark Borax. He's an astrologer. He's going to share insights from his new book, The Ruby Heart of the Dragon. And it's a very different book on the sun signs, the 12 sun signs. It's for these complex, changing times. So drawing upon his 30 years of in-depth counseling others through astrology of the soul and his wild, wandering life, Mark explores sun sign cliches to present a wholly original take on the zodiac, which it certainly is. And he introduces each sign as a rigorous journey from self-ignorance to self-actualization. So what does that mean? It means whenever we're awakening, there are parts of ourselves that we don't see. And Mark is using astrology to show us that. And if you can't see these things about yourself, you can read them about someone you love and you'll get it right away. So let me tell you about Mark. He uses astrology to free the magical, soulful side of human beings. His readings, broadcasts, books, newsletters, and in-person lectures that combine music with talk, he spins tales of transformation that began evolving people on the spot. He's been a nomadic poet his entire life. In the late 70s, he traveled the US and Canada, performing and selling his poetry. In the mid-'80s, he was befriended by his adolescent idol, writer Ray Bradbury, who became his literary godfather. Lucky you. He is the author of the bestseller 2012, Crossing the Bridge to the Future. This is what actually got me interested in Mark, is because it was all what I was experiencing and not what everyone else said. And he co-authored Cosmic Weather Report with Elias Lonsdale. Mark created soul-level astrology, a method of using your birth chart to identify your core nature or soul. And he does readings to investigate the soul level purpose and life timings. And I'm going to add something that I'm aware of, which is that he uses his awakening to help you find parts of you that are awake that you can apply and parts of you that are sleeping and how you can approach that. Because we're all in this whole evolution together of waking up and remembering everything and like, yeah, I can do it. And then the next day you're asleep and you're like, what's happened to me? And I think that's something that for everyone who's awakening, you go through that. And of course, the goal is to experience more of being awake. So if you want to find Mark, he's at Mark Borax, Borax.com. So before we get started, I want to tell you that you may wonder why there's this emphasis on a new book about sun sign astrology. Well, I can tell you because I've read it for the last 3 or 4 days. I thought I would just whiz through it, but no, that didn't happen. There was a lot to think about. It is a tapestry. It's like a literary weaving of myth, New Age information, constellations, and it's particularly relevant to this time. There's New Age information in it, the challenges that we're facing, autobiographical information, relating to the signs, insights of authors and poets and musicians, and wonderful little things to read in there, constellations, and Greek myths. It's also visually a beautiful book with a gorgeous layout. So let's begin with, Mark, what is the ruby heart of the dragon and how does it pertain to the book?
The ruby heart of the dragon is a name I came up with to describe your sun sign. And the reason why I related it to the dragon is because Arabian astrologers came up with very interesting names for the north and south nodes of the moon, which astrologers recognize as your past and your future. The south node has to do with where you're coming from and where you've been in past lives. The Arabian astrologers called that point of the chart the dragon's tail. The north node of the moon, which has to do with the destiny your soul signed up for, the place you're trying to get to in this life, the Arabian astrologers called the dragon's head. And I thought each person has a sun sign, and after the sun sign, the two most important other points in the birth chart, I feel, are the dragon's head and tail. So I began to envision the sun as suspended about midway between the tail and the head of the dragon, which would place it around the heart. And it came to me instantly, the ruby heart of the dragon, as though when you're really on the track of your soul and turning around all your karmas, your sun lights up like a ruby laser beam, because rubies make lasers, shining a light on your dragon's head. So the more you awaken inside, the more this kind of ruby heart beam lights up the territory ahead.
And I know that when you receive insights and intuitions and you know you're on the path, you feel it here. And when there's that pull between your past, and let's just say that karmically we probably reincarnate, we're feeling that past or that self. That when we say, oh, I have that old habitual habit that happened, when I was 6 years old, here I go again. And then your future, your higher self says, you can do something different. And you're like, really? And then you feel what you can do, and you do feel that heart space light up. It's where all the wisdom is.
Yeah, exactly. And I tried to inject that underneath my words and woven around my words. There's the main text, but like an actress on stage, it's not so important what she's saying. It's the subtext of the meaning of what she's saying. And just what you're saying, I did my best to weave that in and around and under and between the words to awaken people's ruby hearts.
And Mark says, when you get this book, read it all the way through. And of course, the whole time I wanted to skip to my sign, which is the ninth sign. But when I got to Leo, it was like it hit me that it's layers and layers that you have to go through to really get each sign. And you have to know the ones before that. And I love poetry and I love art. And so the poetry in it, the clips from the different artists, the musicians, William Blake, Rudolf Steiner, it's like I was just like, oh, yeah, that's what it is. Because poetry you can only perceive with your heart or your soul.
That's right. And I did my best to tell entirely new stories of the zodiac so that whoever you are, if you've known nothing about astrology, or if you've been a professional practicing astrologer for 50 years, as some people I know have been who read advanced copies, it's still going to be completely new to you because I tore down the cliches of each of the signs and present them as if they're a fascinating country, like a travelogue where I'm grabbing the reader by the hand and bringing you into the country of Cancer and the country of Sagittarius.
And I think one thing that's really interesting about it is that instead of saying this is the lower pattern, this is the higher pattern, you talk a lot about thoughts, reactions, and emotions, which I think other people have omitted.
Yeah, because astrology has to outgrow astrology in order to be real. It's not just this erudite academic theoretical thing somewhere that version of astrology just drives me crazy. I want it to be a living, hands-on kind of experience. So I just did my best to create a page-turning, invigorating, colorful, dangerous, challenging, edgy kind of an astrology. And I called upon the poets and the writers and the musicians wherever I could. I sprinkled that information in little places. That was like the seasoning of the main dish.
Well, I think one of the things I like the most about it is that sometimes I would get confused and I would think, I'm not following this. But then I would think, oh, wait, let me think about the poetry, or let me think about how it begins, or let me think about the story. And it would come together. And to me, books are so much more when they make you come together on multiple levels.
And that's beautiful too, because kind of like Alfred Hitchcock, the